Monday. Joining us now in the studio, Stephanie Lee, the Executive Director of the Mississippi State Board of Contractors. Good morning, Stephanie. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so first, we were just talking off the air. Exactly what areas of construction does your organization manage?
The Board of Contractors is the administrative agency for the state of Mississippi that licenses and regulates construction contractors, both commercial and residential.
Okay. And the board itself, is that appointed? And who does the appointments, if that's the case?
Yes. The board members are appointed by the governor.
All by the governor. And how many are there on the board?
There are 10 on the commercial board, and then we have 5 on a residential standing committee, 2 of which serve on the full board.
Okay. So I believe it's true, right? If a company wants to engage in the business of construction, either residential or commercial, they must have a license from the board. Is that correct?
That's correct. It is state law. Both commercial and residential contractors are required to have a state license. So on the residential side, if you're doing residential remodeling over $10,000 or new residential construction over $50,000.
Gotcha.
And then on the commercial side, all contractors, whether you're the general or the subcontractor, if you're doing work over $50,000, then a state license is required.
And so how does one go about applying for a license? What's the process there?
Yeah, it's a fairly simple process, 3-step process. So application, and then there's an exam requirement, a law exam, and possibly a trade exam, depending on the type of work that the contractor is performing. And then it goes to the board for review and approval.
Is there a cost?
Yes, for residential contractors, the application fee is $50, and for commercial contractors, the application fee is $400.
Is there a renewal involved, or is it permanent?
It's annual renewal.
Okay.
So for the residential contractors, it's a $100 renewal, and commercial, it's still $400. But a portion of all licensure fees that are collected do go into the Construction Education Fund, which is used exclusively for construction education and craft training to support programs, both high school, community colleges, and universities in Mississippi.
Gotcha. All right, so we were talking offline. You have had a bit of a surge of new applications. Is that correct?
That is true. We have over 10,000 licensed contractors in the state of Mississippi. Wow. We thought we may have a drop last year, obviously, when the pandemic hit, but the opposite has proven to be true, and we've had an increase in contractor licensing. And
is there anything in particular you attribute that to, the increase?
The increase, I think, is just from educating. We've spent a great deal of time over the last several years in educating consumers about the importance of contractor licensing, and then in educating contractors about the importance of having a license. It is in their benefit because if they aren't properly licensed when they're required to be, then they don't have lien rights. They may have trouble enforcing their contract, or their contract could be considered null and void.
I got you. As a consumer, is there anything in particular I should look for when selecting a contractor, either for a residential or a commercial project?
Yeah, we encourage all consumers to do their homework, vet their contractor, take their time to check their references, ask for a copy of their license. They can call our agency to verify that that is a valid license, check the references,
yep.
And then, just don't rush into doing repairs or projects. Take time to make sure that you are selecting a good contractor. We want to make sure consumers are protected against fraudulent contractors.
What are you hearing from your members about the cost of construction these days, in particular building materials? I mean, that's been all over the news, of course, the last few months, particularly the price of lumber. I do think that has been driven down somewhat the last couple of months. It seems like it's kind of hit its peak and retreating.
Yeah, looks like it may stabilize. Obviously, we all know that there was a large increase. It's still a little unstable, but we're hoping that it's going to stabilize.
Yeah.
From the cost of the lumber as well as other supplies, copper and steel, even paint. Obviously, the transportation, the shipping of the products has been affected by the pandemic. So all those things have contributed to the rise in the cost of the building materials.
What are you hearing from your members with respect to the shortage of labor and just the need to get more labor?
Yeah, well, that is been an issue. Obviously, we could probably talk for a while about all the different reasons why. And that's one of the reasons why we use a portion of those licensure fees to promote construction education and craft training. We work closely with the Mississippi Construction Education Foundation to spark interest in our younger people from 8th grade and up in high school, to get them interested in the trades, and to consider the possibility of pursuing a career in the trades.
I mean, there's lots of demand, and these are fairly high-paying jobs, and there's plenty of work.
There's plenty of work, and they can make a really good living. And we've done a good job working with Mike Barquette over at the Mississippi Construction Education Foundation and making sure that our young people are exposed to those trades and exposed to those opportunities, good career opportunities for them.
What does your organization do with respect to investigating any kind of wrongdoing on the part of a contractor? If a consumer's been harmed by a contractor as part of a construction project, do you guys get involved in that sort of stuff?
We do. We have 7 investigators that work throughout the state of Mississippi, and we investigate complaints that come to our agency from consumers. They also, on a weekly basis, are visiting job sites to ensure that the contractors are properly licensed. And then we take anonymous complaints. They can file a complaint through our website, or we have a mobile app, so if someone can file a complaint through our mobile app as well.
Interesting. How do we do in Mississippi? Do we have would you consider our state, relative to other states, to have a very high-quality construction community of builders?
Yes, I would say for the most part, the contractors in Mississippi are good contractors. Unfortunately, there are a few of those unscrupulous, fraudulent contractors that are always looking to take advantage of consumers. And we try to warn consumers about the red flags, what to look out for so that they don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
We see a lot of those typically after a disaster situation from a hurricane or a tornado.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. We've got hurricane season upon us, and it seems like we're forever dealing with tornadoes coming through any part of our state, and the aftermath thereof, of course, which spurs lots of construction activity. Anything in particular there that is of, I guess, concern to a consumer that they need to be aware of in the aftermath of a disaster? Does that kind of, I guess, increase the occurrence of just bad stuff going on with respect to contractors?
Yeah, unfortunately, you have those contractors that are looking to take advantage of somebody when they're in that vulnerable position after a disaster. A lot of times, if your home or property's been damaged, as the owner, you want to just get things put back together as quickly as possible. We caution consumers against rushing into repairs. Again, take your time, properly vet your contractor. Things to look out for are those contractors that are soliciting business door to door, maybe asking for cash up front. We always discourage consumers from paying cash up front, but those should be red flags to look out for.
What about contractors, of course, most of which use subcontractors, if it's a big enough project, and just making sure that the subcontractors that they partner with are of high quality as well?
Yeah, that's a very important thing for them to discuss with whoever their builder is or the remodeler on their project. Of course, on commercial projects, all contractors doing work over 50 are required to have a license. On residential projects, they want to discuss that with their builder or the remodeler that's in charge of their project. And I would also check with the local building officials to see which of those trades are required to have a license on the local level and make sure they haven't had any complaints.
What about contractors working with inspectors? Is there some involvement your organization has there? Because when you complete these construction projects, they've got to go through and complete an inspection before they can be occupied, right? The buildings, et cetera. So does your organization get involved in that at all?
Not necessarily with the inspectors, but I do want to mention a lot of people are unaware that in Mississippi, over 50% of the cities and 70% of the counties do not have local permitting offices or building inspectors. Okay. So a lot of people are shocked to find that out. In the areas of the state where there is no local oversight, that's where we tend to see some of the worst work and where we get some of our worst complaints from. That
makes total sense. So there's nobody really holding them accountable. So again, the consumer just needs to be aware and just needs to be careful. Make sure they pick somebody that's got a reputation. Maybe go see some of their work firsthand.
That's correct. And then they can always call us and check to see if they have a license or see if we've had complaints against that contractor.
Makes total sense. Stephanie, thanks so much for coming in. Very informative. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Stephanie Lee, Executive Director of the Mississippi State Board of Contractors, has been our guest. We'll step aside right here for some messages. We'll come right back with more talk on the JT Show. Stay with us.